What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 621 of the Smark Smack Talk podcast, Hot Tags of the Week. We're going to be running down all the stuff that we were like talking about that happened in the world of pro wrestling over the past few days. Some of the rumors, some of the gossip, some of the trademarks, some of the new events coming your way, a rebranding of an old brand coming back for the third time or so, and so on and so forth. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, are Robert DeFelice.
Hello.
And Callum Wiggins.
Hey there.
And of course, as we go along here and we tell you what we have to say, we want to know what you have to think about these kind of topics. So drop your thoughts in the comments below on YouTube. And if you're listening elsewhere, then hop on over to YouTube and do it. Or leave a comment on whatever it is that you are. Just try to tweet at us at SmarkOutMoment or something along those lines. Also, if you are on YouTube, though, make sure you take advantage of all the other things that you could do to help us out and let us know that you're enjoying this. You know, hit that like button, make sure you are subscribed, ring that little notification bell, click on that join button, get access to the same stuff as the Patreon, patreon.com/SmarkOutMoment. The Darkcast, we're going to be recording after this, so that should probably be up relatively soon after this is actually posted. But you also have access to the Pick Your Poison tier, and even just $1 a month is great to help us keep the lights on. You could also do that through the little thanks button, or you can pick up stuff on Redbubble and TeePublic if you want to get some merchandise, not only just for Smark Out Moment, but also Fanboys Anonymous and A Mango Tees. If you don't know what Fanboys Anonymous is, go to fanboysanonymous.com, check that place out. We'll talk more about that another time. Hot tags for this week are on the lighter side compared to some of those other weeks that we've had some, massive 2.5 hour long edition. I don't think we're really going to go that long on this one. But we're going to talk about some title changes. We're going to get into some upcoming pay-per-views and stuff. So still going to have some interesting discussion, especially about the TNA thing, because that's just kind of wild to me. But before we get into that, let's talk about two of those pay-per-view names that are coming up. I think that that's one of the easiest things for us to just kind of get out there. One of them is that WWE is going to be having a premium live event in Germany on August 31st of 2024. They're calling it Bash in Berlin. So we have now gotten to the point where we have, in the trademark kind of space, Beach Blast, Bash at the Beach, the Great American Bash, The Bash, and now Bash in Berlin. They really like the Bash name between WWF and WCW and, now WWE and all. But Bash in Berlin's not a horrible name. It's fine. I think I still would prefer if they were to do things where they bring back the same names and they just kind of, Extreme Rules is coming to Berlin or whatever it might be. But Bash in Berlin's whatever. It's cool that they're going to be going to Berlin. I see a lot of people already are super excited for this, and I forget who it was. I can't attribute the tweet, but somebody had been like, "Oh, I've been dreaming for them to have even a live tour on here," and then the fact that they would never have thought that they were going to get a premium live event. So it's pretty cool. Pay-per-view coming to Germany. I'm obviously not going, but that should be fun. What do you guys think about that?
It seems like they're really dedicated to these international premium live events and putting the W in WWE. Like we got the Puerto Rico show, all the Saudi shows. I believe that people are already saying, this won't be the only premium live event in that side of the world.
So rumor is supposedly, backlash in France.
Like it's okay, sure. That's pretty cool. I think it's good for the audience, especially after COVID, when you didn't know if any of this would even be possible again. I thumbs up all around, and I wonder if we're gonna get a super push for Kaiser leading up to that, or a super push for Dragunov, or just anybody. I don't know who they have on their roster. I wonder if we're going to see Alex Wright. Genuinely. I'd like to see him dance.
I don't even think that they would remember about him.
No, didn't he train? He trained one of the Imperium guys.
I
would like to,
I don't remember if he had any kind of involvement with that. What's it, Vinci or Kaiser? Or, do you know?
think it might have been Kaiser. I'm gonna look it up now. Um, but yeah, I thumbs up for me. All positives when you think of these massive shows that they do. Also, that will be all out weekend, so there's also that.
Oh, jeez, that's right.
It's a good location to do a big wrestling show. There's a very heavy appetite for pro wrestling over in Germany. Have I'm trying to remember what the name of the promotion is.
WXW.
Yeah, WXW. That's the right one. That is based over there, and and that's where like Gunter and Ludwig Kaiser had a lot of appearances over there, especially when they were doing a lot of stuff over the European circuit. So there's clearly an appetite, and I think that it will have no problem selling out because it is an underserved area especially for like big North American promotions like WWE. So
And I do believe the WXW library, I don't know if it's still up on Peacock, but I know for a while it was. So there's also that connection. It's going to be great for some indie talent as well. You know, they're going to hold tryouts for not only indie talent, but athletes. And before I forget, it was Giovanni Vinci that was trained by Alex, right?
Yeah, maybe they can do something like that. I would definitely anticipate that Imperium would have some kind of a big focal point. And that's, we're talking August of next year. It's almost an entire year away. So who knows what the landscape's going to be. But by this point, maybe Gunther is the world heavyweight champion. He could be headlining the show. Or if he's still not winning that belt at WrestleMania, maybe this is when he actually fights for that belt and potentially even wins it. I mean, that would be a hell of a moment if that's when they crown him the world heavyweight champion or something. So there are, tons of options for them to maximize how they end up doing that. It's definitely fitting in that mold, though, of that they really want to do this expansion. And it makes perfect sense. And we've seen, whether it's Elimination Chamber in Montreal, or I think it was Montreal, right? Or was it Quebec? I don't remember for sure. I think it was Montreal.
Montreal's in Quebec, yes.
Whatever. I don't know. I'm an ignorant American.
Sure, but
one of them North Montanas. But I mean, anytime that they go to Australia and to the UK or anywhere outside of the United States, it ends up being a really packed audience. It ends up being a really fun crowd. So I'm excited for them to do this stuff because to me, I mean, some people get this idea where they're like, oh, why aren't we getting that pay-per-view in fucking Chicago or something? We're getting a million things there all the time. Shut up. You're not going to go to all of them anyway. And if you are, then you're the type of person who's going to go to Berlin for it. Like, relax. Everybody else in the world can have some fun,
The only people I feel bad for are the people that saved their money for a major show thinking one day, because they're always here, I'm going to get it. And then they just start doing all these shows outside the US. Those people I feel bad for. But the New York and the Chicago and the LAs, you'll live.
I mean, if they're in Bumblefuck, Iowa, and they're like, one of these days we're going to get WrestleMania. No, you're not.
Well, you're not going to get Mania, but you might get Payback. I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of all depends. They haven't confirmed the Backlash situation, whereas apparently it would be contre coup. I looked it up. If that is in Paris, but I'm all down for them doing that stuff. I think that pretty much anything should be on the table. They should have, Survivor Series in fucking Italy. Why not? Have some fun, play around with it. And for that matter, I looked up how do you put Bash in Berlin in German, and it just comes up on Google as Party in Berlin, so that's lame. But that's not the only pay-per-view that we know that's a new addition to a lineup, because we also know AEW has their December 30th pay-per-view, and that's going to be in Long Island. We're going to come back to that. But that is going to be called Worlds End, which is not my favorite name either for a pay-per-view, but it's not bad. I mean, Worlds End does kind of give off the idea of a finale, and it is essentially the end of the year. I mean, it's one more day, but who's going to do a pay-per-view on that? Unless you're WWE Day One, then that's all stupid and it was annoying. Still going to be annoying to me that we're going to have them having to do coverage on December 30th, and now
New Year's Eve.
Yeah, the whole idea of me setting up our like lineup of podcasts, I was like, that's when I had planned on doing the end of the year recap and the hot tags as a combo for like a break. And it's like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna add friggin' 2 more podcasts to the end of the week or something. But boo-hoo, I guess, on my end. But World's End is going to be the 7th or 8th pay-per-view for AEW for this year. They added Wrestle Dream. We had the All-In edition this year, so they're getting more used to this idea of potentially heading into that 1 per month kind of range. And there's no confirmation that I'm aware of so far that this is like, okay, well, we're going to do World's End around this time every year. But yeah, you got to assume that it's a possibility.
I'm assuming it's a possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get it until you said it, but it is very close to Armageddon, which used to be the WWE December pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the name, actually, and I think I like AEW expanding. AEW is a different animal than it was when it was created, and it's only going to lead to more opportunities for more wrestlers. I do laugh that this went from, Ring of Honor Final Battle being at the Hammerstein on December 30th is probably what that is, to them running Long Island. Cool. They've been there before. I don't think they've ever been to the Nassau, but it's going to be a big move for them.
Final Battle is in the Curtis Colwell Center in Garland, Texas, which they did like another ROH thing, I think, before. Yeah. So it seems like that's one of their smaller venues that they can kind of go back to for that. That's December 15th. So if you go on smarkmoment.com and you look on the homepage, everybody, the lineup on that centerpiece of the pay-per-view and event coverage is like, that's our full lineup for the whole rest of the year. Crown Jewel, Full Gear, Survivor Series, Deadline, Final Battle, and World's End. What do you think about the name?
Deadline?
Deadline is the, let's see, it is the 9th of December.
Nice.
So 9th, 15th, and then 30th. What do you think about the name, Cal?
I mean, as is often the case with me, a name is a name. Just if the show's good, the show's good. Like, so it's a fine enough name. It's thematic. It's fitting. I like the kind of, it looks like a very Avengers style thing they've put together for it. In terms of like the logo.
Which I can't find a great version of that logo yet, which is annoying me.
You're the one that usually makes them.
Yeah, I ended up putting one on Smark Moment that's like as good as I could get it. But I made sure that I put smarkmoment.com on there in case anybody steals it.
It's an interesting way to end the year because it's only it'll only be a few days out from Wrestle Kingdom. So we obviously know the relationship that AEW has with New Japan Pro Wrestling, so there's a good chance there might be some AEW wrestlers appearing on that show. Maybe we'll see some New Japan people appearing on this show. It seems unlikely considering the fact that they'll probably want to be in Japan preparing for the big event. But you would imagine that people like Bryan Danielson might be having a match over there at some point. Maybe Omega, maybe some other people. So it'd be interesting to see how that affects this show. But it's good to have another AEW pay-per-view because those rarely, if ever, miss. So
Wrestle Kingdom's the 4th, right? January 4th?
Yeah, it'll be the 4th, yeah.
Yeah, always the 4th.
Always 4th, yeah. So, I mean, they do have a few days, but it is a holiday. It's sandwiched between 2 holidays. It's the busiest holiday season of the year and all. So I don't know how many people are going to be happy about having to travel in that way because usually you get situations like, WWE will record 2 episodes of Raw and 2 episodes of SmackDown to give them a week off or something. And to have to do like a go home show basically on Christmas, essentially, and then have a pay-per-view like that. I'm kind of anticipating that when it comes down to this end of the month of December, we're going to get one of those situations that happens with AEW quite a bit. And it's been happening with WWE too, which is annoying, where they just kind of go, and then, these are the matches. And then you just, are you interested in watching a pay-per-view for the sake of a pay-per-view? But I do think that there's going to be one potential thing that could stand out on this. And that's to go back to the idea that this is on Long Island and it's happening right at the end of 2023. The idea of the whole bidding war of 2024 and MJF and Long Island, and they're setting up this Wardlow thing. I could see a scenario where Wardlow beats MJF for the title on this to get a lot of heat from the New York crowd. Or alternatively, if the idea is to not take the belt off of MJF prior to 2024, that they specifically give him this spot to retain, to be like, oh my God, the momentum is crazy for him heading into 2024. I don't think that them being in Long Island at the end of the year is a coincidence. You know what I mean?
No, but I would probably pump the brakes on the Wardlow idea. It's
yeah. I mean, oh my God,
he's a TV match at best at this rate.
The fucking rehab you need to put into the Wardlow character, insane. But I like what you're thinking.
I know he's focused on MJF, but it won't be enough for that to be considered a main event match for World's End at this point. And fundamentally, we don't know if he'll be world champion going into that show. So,
I mean, that's always an option. Yeah, like he could lose to Jay White at Full Gear, but we do have a couple months.
Can he make it on Saturday?
Oh, true. He could. I don't think he will for either of those, but it's a possibility. You never know. I didn't think a lot of these title changes that have happened this year would happen. So who knows? And of course, he could be injured or something, and that could change things up. Or the Adam Cole thing, of course, didn't get to play out the way that they were planning on doing that, but. I do think that there's, the rest of October technically, but it doesn't really count. And there's November and there's December. I think that might be enough time for them to build up that Wardlow match for that to be the main event of this.
Go ahead, go.
I was going to say, I'd be surprised. First of all, just be surprised it would be the Wardlow match. And secondly, if it is the Wardlow match, there's no way Wardlow's winning, because you might as well have just nuked MJF's title reign for all that's worth. Like, had him be champion for over a year and just said, okay, we wasted all that time then. But
I just want to say that AEW is doing my favorite type of angle with MJF, which is everybody wants to be world champion. It doesn't work for everybody, but it works for me. That's the kind of storylines I like, where you've got 5 people actively going, I'm going to beat you for that. And if I don't beat you for that, I'm going to beat you for those Ring of Honor tag titles. It puts the focus back on the championships.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the stories that I like to see.
It makes sense, because why wouldn't everybody want that? Instead of it just being the way that WWE does things, where they're like, Drew McIntyre is the only person who's in the sights of the World Heavyweight title, and nobody else cares about Seth Rollins. Why are they all being patient? They're all just like, now it's Drew's turn. Like, everybody share. We're all in daycare or something. Yeah, Kenny Omega should want to try to get the belt back before he beats his record. Yeah, Samoa Joe should be hanging around and still like, yeah, I want more belts. Why not? You get more accolades, you get more money. Sure. Everybody should want to win every championship on every single show. Whether it's a tag title, an intercontinental title, an international title, fucking whatever it is, should always be the case. I do like that, yeah. But World's End, of course, we're going to come back around to that over the course of the next few months when we get more information about that, because Full Gear doesn't even have a full card yet. So, let alone do we know what their plans are for something like, we still haven't gotten confirmation about like Winter is Coming or Holiday Bash or New Year's Smash or any of those like pay-per-view-esque TV episodes that they typically do. Maybe they'll move some of them around. Maybe they won't even do them, because that's a lot. If they end up having Full Gear November 18th, and then if they try to cram in there between November 18th and the end of the year, or I guess technically the beginning of the year, if they try to cram 3 more special episodes of TV that are pay-per-view-esque, New Year's Smash they can technically get around with being like the beginning of January or so, but could be December 27th, could be January 4th if they don't want to do something on the same time frame as Wrestle Kingdom. I don't know, kind of depends about that, but Holiday Bash typically is the end of the year around Christmas, And if they go like Holiday Bash is heading into World's End, they try to put some matches on there. Maybe that takes away from the World's End card. Of course, they want to do as much as they can to get the ratings. So that's been a big thing of them trying to put big matches on those episodes. And then some of those pay-per-views, not necessarily the biggest matches, but I'm really hoping that we don't continue this trend of like, well, he defended the title at Full Gear, so in Long Island at World's End, he's going to defend the tag titles, and that's it. Like, I want to get back to the idea of just the world champions fighting a bunch of people for that, and I guess we'll see. I don't know. As far as pay-per-view-ish episodes of TV, let's talk about Halloween Havoc and everything that went down on NXT this week, because this was actually a pretty packed episode. And
what were you saying earlier about title changes?
Title changes that I didn't see coming. Yeah. Some of this show was very skippable, I will say, and not at all interesting from what it sounds like it should be. And then some of the other stuff was really interesting in the way that they did things. Quick rundown on some of those parts, but we'll come back to some of it. Stop me if you feel like talking about it, but Roxanne Perez beat Kiana James at a Devil's Playground match.
I know what that is now. It was a literal playground set.
It was like a little kiddie pool with, was it skulls in there?
Yep.
I forget. She was dressed, Roxanne was dressed up as Freddy Krueger. And we actually had quite a bit of like cosplay.
There was a lot of Halloween.
Yeah. And I like that quite a bit. That was, it's just a fun little twist of some of that. I'll talk about some of them even at the end of the year awards, because I wrote some of them down as some of my favorite gear for the year. I liked Roxanne's outfit. That was good. Kiana just was Kiana. She didn't bother to dress up. Or at least she didn't dress up in a way that I understood. Maybe she was like, I'm the businesswoman from this TV show or something. That was one of those like meh type of things though. Even less so, I would say though, the lights out match between Blair Davenport and Gigi Dolan, that was stupid. Their idea of this lights out thing was to just put like a black light on.
I had forgotten that Tiffany and Wendy Chu had that previously.
Did they?
Yeah, that was before Tiffany went away for reasons. And
2 reasons.
And yeah, they just did that and it wasn't great.
It's stupid because you just can't see anything. And it's the same as a regular other match. It's just no DQ, but we can't see it as well. What's the point? I hated it. I thought it was stupid.
I do go to compliment the amount of women on the show.
This was packed with the women's division. Yeah. And that was not just for the matches, but the backstage segments and stuff. Like, we got a little fun backstage segment where Fallon Henley was dressed up as Tiffany Stratton. I thought she did a great job with that.
That's really good. I honestly, you can say what you want about them in the ring, but they're putting in the work to try and flesh out the division, and I do appreciate it.
We had 2 matches for the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament, the semifinals. Kalani Jordan dressed up as Spider-Gwen, which that is one of the ones that I added to my end of the year. I thought that ring gear was fantastic. She had a match against Ariana Grace, beat her. Grace was just in her like tiara and stuff, so she's just playing herself essentially. And Lola Vice had a quicker match with Carmen Petrovich, but Lola Vice against Kalani Jordan next week for the breakout tournament. As far as predictions for next week goes, we might as well toss both in at the same time. I'm going to go Lola Vice winning this.
I'm also going Lola Vice.
Make it a 3 for Callum?
Sure, why not?
It makes sense to me that, Lola would go up against Lyra because Lyra is a babyface. And I was thinking that was going to be somebody up against Becky, but we'll come back around to that. I could see Kalani winning it though, just to have like a babyface versus babyface match for the sake of filling in some time and then coming back around to Lola down the line though.
If I'm honest, I'd rather see Kalani win it from the standpoint of she's good and gives you something to do after you fucked her over by releasing Dana Brooke.
Yeah. I would be rooting for Kalani in the sense that I think that she has progressed a lot over these past couple months. But I'm just anticipating Lola.
That's how I feel about it as well.
We had a segment where Akira Tozawa stole the Heritage Cup from Noam Dar, and that was predicted by like a tarot card reading from Scarlett. Scarlett had a lot more fun on this episode. She's with her friend Shotzi. They're dressed up as Shotzi was Pinhead at one point, and then Edward Scissorhands, which was one of the ones I added to my end of the year thing as well. I thought that was a really good costume.
They killed it. They should do this. This is what they're made to do. These two,
pretty much, yeah,
they did really well.
You could tell that they had way more fun doing this than pretty much anything else that they've been doing.
I really enjoyed their hosting, which is something that normally you don't put a lot of emphasis on.
Much better combo than Shotzi and Quincy. We had a backstage segment with Mr. Stone visiting Von Wagner and the physical therapy thing. That match was originally advertised as taking place on this episode, and I guess they realized that they were running long on time. So Mr. Stone against Braun Breaker is happening next week instead, which Braun Breaker, of course, is going to win that. Lexis King had his debut. Brian Pillman Jr. against Dante Chen. Poor old Dante Chen, of course, wasn't going to win, but he put up a little bit of a fight, worse than I thought he would. And I came out of this going, wow, Pillman looks way more like a star than I've ever seen him.
Sliding throne. I really like that was a very cool part of his entrance.
Loved that.
I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's rocket to the moon yet, but I did enjoy the presentation, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with him next.
I was quick enough to be like, you know what? If he's got this much presence on his debut, he definitely should be the next champion. Easily.
The next NXT champion.
Well, I mean, not the women's. Yeah.
Okay. Well, wow. North American.
I did say everybody should be going for every belt at all the time. I don't think that it should be the intergender thing. But no, I think he needs to beat Ilya Dragunov. And he looked and carried himself like a bigger star than I've ever seen him in AEW. I don't know if it's,
you didn't watch Dark.
No, I mean, the Dark stuff never felt like it was anything for me. And I liked Brian Pillman Jr. back when he was in like the Varsity Blondes and stuff. But I don't know, it's something about the way that he looked in this kind of scenario. Could be that it's a smaller venue, and could be that it's just a smaller pond in general, but big fan. Did you check him out at all, Callum?
Yeah, and I'm in the complete opposite of what you think. He looked as much of a lifeless piece of crap that he did during most of his time in AEW.
Really?
Yeah, just like the beard looks shit. The things like say, "Oh, Brian Pillman is dead. Long live Lexis King," even though he's still got Brian Pillman's insignia on his knee pad. The fact that it's hard to even listen to it's already bad enough to listen to NXT commentary in the first place, but to listen to it and just hear them constantly talk about Brian Pillman, even though this guy's not about Brian Pillman anymore, and Brian Pillman was never part of his life, and he doesn't ever want to think about Brian Pillman. He can't go one sentence without saying Brian Pillman's name.
And Booker T being like, yeah, and he was a terrible father, and like Booker T just shit on Brian Pillman for the entirety of the match, which is a weird route to take.
Because like you just say like the presence, like I think that he's got a negative aura. It's like it's one of those things of like Jade Cargill was on the show later on. I know that she appeared and like was there for the main event. Like it's not the case that like what she has Brian Pillman doesn't have. I'd even go so far to say what Jade Cargill has, Brian Pillman has the opposite of that. And I'm going to keep calling him Brian Pillman Jr. because I don't like the Lexis King. Like Lexis King is like it's fine. I understand the reasons for it, but until he stops saying Brian Pillman or anyone else stops saying Brian Pillman, then I'm going to keep calling him Brian Pillman Jr.
Fair enough. I mean, that is kind of the albatross of the situation. I'm a big fan. I think he's got a lot of potential in the future. But, like I keep saying to everybody, you agree or you disagree. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about Lexis King? You liking it? You disliking it? Charisma vacuum? Future champion?
Or I'm kind of going to, just to round that off, like, it's not one of those situations with, as I mentioned, Cargill earlier, where AEW tried to keep hold of him and he left. Like they got rid of him. So I think maybe just from an optic standpoint, putting the championship on him when he's an AEW castaway might feel. I mean, I guess people won't feel the same way as if somebody that WWE just released went and won an AEW championship. I'm sure people will be way on top of that thing. But no, if an AEW castaway wins a world title in WWE, I'm sure people will be celebrating that and say, oh, they really had something with this guy. Why'd they let him go? It's like, I think it will stand to reason why they were pretty comfortable letting him leave.
Well, as far as putting championships on people, I was very surprised that Chase University beat Tony D'Angelo and Channing Stacks Lorenzo for the tag titles. I didn't see that coming at all.
I'm not supremely, again, don't watch week to week, so I can't really say certain, but like I tend to like see what things are appearing like on YouTube or on Twitter clips, and it doesn't really surprise me because they haven't really been doing anything with Tony and Stacks by all counts, and Chase U is a prominent feature week to week. I know it's been more with the Thea Hale and JC Jane and her rebellious streak coming through, but Chase U is a prominent fixture on television, and so it stands to reason why they would be given tag team gold now.
I just assumed that this was going to be one of those scenarios where they're distracted by Thea ringside through some kind of miscommunication, and then Tony D and Stacks haven't really done anything, like you said, so then they continue to keep their titles to build towards something that's like, not just a TV match. I mean, it is Halloween Havoc, but it still took me by surprise because they didn't really do much with Tony D and Stacks. They pretty much had like one title defense for the most part. And for them to switch over to Andre Chase and Duke Hudson, I mean, I'm totally down for it, but it was just like, oh, damn. Like, I didn't set up any kind of title change stuff ahead of time. And that really took me by surprise.
I think that a good move. Chase University is one of the only over acts that the NXT 2.0 thing has always had since they made the switch. I'm surprised because I spent my entire match watching Thea waiting for her to throw in the towel. Because she carried that towel, and I'm sitting there going, he's totally gonna take it away from them, like they took it away from her. Goes with the story. So it was surprising to see the switch. I like the addition of JC Jane, even if I feel like the weird, hey, we're in high school, even though we're all grown adults here, it is a bit strange. I do like the vibe that they carry.
I'm down to see where they go from this, yeah.
And I'll say, just to make it a 3-fer, they did nothing with Tony D and Stacks. So whatever you're going to do with them next, move on.
So on night 2 of Halloween Havoc, we're also going to get Thea Hale and JC Jane are going to attempt to win their half of the tag team title situation. They're going to go up against Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. I'm not anticipating a title change there, but for all we know, I mean, I didn't see that other one coming. We could end up having Thea and JC as the women's tag team champions.
I mean, I don't see it happening, but I'm not against the idea of it actually going down so that, we can get some new blood on Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt that happening because I don't see them moving up from NXT just yet.
No. We also are going to get next week a spin the wheel, make the deal, tables, ladders, and scares match between Angel Garza and Alberto Carrillo against the Creed brothers. We're going to get... Oh, go ahead.
I don't know why this is happening at all, but I like it. I mean, you're going to tell me you're going to put the Creeds against Los Lotharios in a TLC match? That sounds fun to me on paper, but for what reason?
Why? Kind of for the sake of it. I don't know. Like, I'm not.
Why are they that violent though?
I'm not super big on it either. Yeah.
It should be a banger match though.
I think it'll be fine. I don't think it's going to be a banger. I'm also not really looking forward to Dominic Mysterio go against Nathan Fraser for the North American Championship. I just don't think it's going to be anything special. For that matter, I mean, in general, night 2 doesn't sound as interesting to me as night 1 did. Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes are going to have a good match, but I've seen it. So what are they going to do that's going to be different? And Stratton and Henley are just going to have a match. I mean, that's, what it is. But they did try to set up more about this whole who attacked Trick Williams thing, and we didn't get any kind of answers. But as far as you guys think that's going to play out, you heading in any kind of specific direction on who attacked Trick?
The only direction I'm heading in is they played it up so heavily that it was Carmelo that now I'm like,
can't be, right?
No way it was Carmelo.
Right.
No, it's Carmelo.
I mean,
this is the whole Triple H Shawn Michaels 2002 story, and all Shawn Michaels does is do storylines from his past. So
that is true. That I hear ya. That is true. But it's so heavy-handed.
It was heavy-handed then as well. Obviously, it was Triple H.
That is true. And then he does the whole interrogation thing.
Maybe Rikishi did it.
There was the whole Carmelo wore the black leather jacket. People were drawing parallels to Shawn Michaels' outfit from the barbershop incident. Look, Shawn Michaels runs Shawn Michaels, so that does make a lot of sense. I would like to see who else it could be.
I think they're going to do the whole thing where it's so obvious that it's Carmelo that they're going to be like, we got you. It's not. And then, a few weeks or months later, it's like, and then now we're going to turn Carmelo and Trick against each other.
As long as it's not Trick Williams attack Trick Williams. Kevin Nash texted Kevin Nash.
That would make no sense at all, but then again, it's pro wrestling. So.
They did. Kevin Nash attacks. Kevin Nash texted Kevin Nash. I will never get over that. That was so bad. As long as it's better than that.
I mean, as far as like deadline is concerned, they're not setting up anything quite yet about that because they have to get rid of Halloween Havoc. But I think that the story is going to play out into deadline. So we'll come back around to that. But the other thing to talk about, the other main thing to talk about from Halloween Havoc is Becky Lynch against Lyra Valkyria. And Lyra beats her for the title. Did not see that coming either.
I mean, I didn't see it coming at all. I like it. And I'm glad that Becky, put Lyra over. I just didn't see that coming. Like, it never felt like Lyra had the chance.
It felt to me like this was one of those, Lyra puts up a really, really good fight. Becky gets her, but she's got her respect. And then we move on and Becky drops the belt to somebody, either at the next pay-per-view or maybe even at the beginning of the year or something. But after it happened, I was just like, you know what? This also kind of makes sense. So, like, they must have just had this in mind. They've been trying to build up Lyra a little bit. Hasn't been working for me 100%. Lyra is somebody that I think is like... It sounds like I'm harsh on Lyra all the time, but she just gives me this vibe of, like... She would be TBS championship level in AEW. Not even the AEW Women's World Champion. And they got a smaller roster to work with overall. And I would be kind of shocked if they were to run with her as the ROH Women's World Champion. Or I can't see her coming up to the main roster and winning the world title for either Raw or SmackDown for the women's division. Like, she's missing star power for me. She's not bad or anything, but she doesn't have presence. And Rob and I were talking about this just, kind of when it had happened of like, oh, wow, this happened, whatever. And I kind of feel like she is not going to have a great title reign. Like, she could be a transitional champion and it wouldn't shock me.
She feels like the first really like, okay, we're going to test the waters with you as NXT Women's Champion. Because I ran through all of the champions that have ever held the belt. And she, to me, feels like, well, I guess her and Tiffany, but more so her, she feels like, hey, we're going to give you a shot here. Let's see what you can make of it.
Because Indy didn't get a chance. She was just injured right off the bat.
Right.
But like Asuka and, you know, the Four Horsewomen and Paige and
Baszler, Rhea, like these were all people that they knew what they were going to do for the brand.
Yeah, Kyrie, like there's a disparity. And Lyra could work her way towards that. It's not like she's, you know, incapable of doing that or whatever, but her winning the title kind of feels to me like if they gave the NXT Men's World Championship to, say, maybe Apollo Crews, where it's kind of like, all right, maybe North American Championship would suit him more. You know what I mean? Or even like, as much as I like Tyler Breeze, if Tyler Breeze would have won the NXT Championship, I think I would have been a little bit surprised.
Yeah, I think there's a definite option that it happened. I mean, that, you know, she does work her way up to that level. And like you said, it was one of those things upon thinking about it that you realized, okay, they had her step up to Rhea. Okay, they had her in the match with Tiffany at Battleground. Maybe they were building towards this and you just didn't see it because there were other people to look at. There was Tiffany, felt like more of a big deal. There was Thea, felt like more of a big deal. But this is their chance to shine. And no matter what, she defeated Becky Lynch. And you can make a career out of that for the rest of your life.
I kind of again disagree with the assertion that that they think this is going to be like a transitional reign, or that they're testing the waters with her. You don't have someone go into the ring and beat Becky Lynch clean for the championship if you don't think that she's going to be a big deal. And maybe that's a lot of Becky thinking that as well, because she probably got to have a bit of a say in who would be the one that she would eventually put over. But I think that they wouldn't have gone on that direction if they thought that this person was like, okay, let's see what she can do, rather than, okay, we're 100% behind you because you're the one that's beating Becky Lynch. So I think that they do see a lot in her and they have been utilising her a lot. She doesn't lose that often. If she does, it's against top named opposition like Rhea Ripley. And I think that the reason why I think people will be eventually down on her reign, why I agree in the extent that I don't think this reign is going to be particularly good, is primarily not her fault. It's the fact that there's very little competition.
It's not a great roster right now, yeah.
Yeah, there's Tiffany Stratton and there's Roxanne Perez. That's kind of it, really. Like, JC's not at that level, Thea's not at that level, GG's not at that level, maybe Blair Davenport, but she's been very like off and on with her booking. There's Jade Cargill if she does eventually go with NXT, but I think that's also like it's a waste of Jade Cargill to be on NXT at this point.
I'm thinking that we're pretty set that she's not going to go to NXT.
Now that Becky's not the champion, I don't think that there's a reason.
Yeah.
For her to go to NXT.
And they've been teasing too much with like her against Flair and her against Becky and all. Like, it'd be weird for them to be like, wow, she's such a big star. Let's put her up against Izzy Dame for her debut, you know?
Because they need to build up the depth of. I know you're saying that they're doing more stuff with the women, but fundamentally they need to improve the depth of the quality there, because they're giving them opportunities, which is good, and you don't get better if you're not given opportunities. So I'm not saying they shouldn't be doing that, and they are the quote unquote developmental brand, but fundamentally Lyra's one of the top names in a very shallow crop of in-ring talent, and like with people like especially Roxanne and Tiffany have been in NXT way too long. They need to move up. Like, Lyra will soon find herself being like the most capable and efficient wrestler in a division that is where there's a pretty steep fall off from her, and she's going to have to try and build other people up in the ring. And yeah, maybe she does lack a little bit of character development and presence, but you can kind of make up with that with some of the other women on the roster have a bit more of a defined character that Lyra can play off of, but fundamentally she's going to run rings around all of them in the ring unless they can step up.
As far as projection into the future, who do you guys think is going to end up being the next tag champs and the next women's champ? Just like, jumping ahead of the game right now.
Los Lotharios, because I don't know who else could be, and I want the creed.
You might want to repeat yourself. You're very low.
Los Lotharios, because I don't know who else it could be. And maybe when the time comes, Thea Hale gets the run as a heel.
I'd probably say Blair Davenport for the women, and yeah, there's like tag teams are all pretty crap in NXT, so probably Los Lotharios.
The tag team division, I think it's either gonna switch around with whatever because they haven't said when they're gonna do the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. We know that or at least they had said Cody Rhodes was announcing that the men's breakout tournament was going to start after the women's one was over. So that should start in 2 weeks. And we don't know how long they're going to stretch that out for, but I'm anticipating that they're not going to be doing that at the same time as the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. So they're probably going to start that maybe at the beginning of the year or so. And I had said before, I thought that Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams might win that. Now, we're going to see if that plays out before they end up having that split or not. But right now, I could see a scenario where the tag team titles go over to maybe something like Drew Gulak and Charlie Dempsey, or maybe it's just OTM and they just kind of switch it over to those guys. But the women's title, Blair Davenport definitely stands out to me. Cora Jade also is just like, I don't know what they're doing with her situation. I don't know why her social media is about how she does not want to come back to NXT and she hates that and she left for that reason and all, when she seemingly left for enhancement surgery, we should call it. And I'm assuming that she should have been back by now for that, because that's not something that people are out for, a full year for, unless there's some kind of complications that we're not aware of. But my thought process is that they just are waiting to like bring her back and make her a bigger deal more than anything else. So I could see Cora Jade being the next for the women's division to head that up. Low Vice wouldn't be the biggest shocker in the world to me, but I do think that it's highly unlikely that she wins the breakout tournament and then just beats Lyra. So I don't think that that's going to be the case. I think that's a temporary feud. And as far as other women that are in that range, like, JC's not necessarily in that next champion position in my mind. I can't imagine Elektra Lopez gets that spot, or, Ivy Nile or Gigi or whatever. Nikita Lyons, maybe, if she is back in time to switch it up and turn heel or something. But I'm going to go, if it's not Davenport, I think it's Cora. So we'll see, of course, how that plays out over the next couple weeks, months, whatever it might be. Years for all we know. I don't know. As far as women's division, though, let's talk about somebody who's outside of this. And this is a story that I didn't know about until Rob sent it when we were getting ready to record this. I don't even know what Lucha VaVOOM is, but Lucha VaVOOM had a show, and it was headlined by Taya Valkyrie and Brian Kendrick against Marina Shafir, you know her, and Ronda Rousey. So Ronda's retirement from the in-ring action and all lasted all but how many days or so? Weeks?
I mean, look, it was a fun one-off, and she's friends with all involved. So maybe this is just her saying, I want to do something fun. Maybe the WWE life wasn't fun for her, but she's open to stepping into a ring every now and again
I mean, we know the WWE life wasn't fun for her.
Maybe she is CM Punk. Like, who knows? You know, maybe it's that kind of a deal where she still likes wrestling, and she probably wanted to do stuff with Marina because they never really did. I kind of like it. I think it's a fun surprise. And it's a fun surprise for anyone who bought a ticket.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm sure none of them were anticipating that something like that would happen.
For your local indie scene kind of thing. Like,
it's a harmless little thing. Again, like, always take retirements in wrestling with a grain of salt. No one ever stays retired for the longest time. I don't even buy into Sting staying retired after a Revolution, but yeah. So she gets to do a little bit of like a fun tag team thing with Brian Kendrick, who trained her a lot during her early days in WWE, and Ty Valkyrie's a safe pair of hands, and tag team with Marina, who's like one of her best friends. So yeah, I think it's just a fun thing to do, given the opportunity. So who knows, we might see Ronda pop up on a couple of indie shows here and there, just when the mood takes her.
Do you guys anticipate that there's any chance that she might join some kind of other promotion and actually wrestle, like, say, you know, a couple matches in like a GCW type thing or something? Or do you think that this was just quite literally a one-off? Just like, hey, I want to show up and fuck it, let's have some fun with Marina.
A one-off for now, but maybe she's like, yeah, you know, fuck it, I want to be with Marina for a while, so I'll go to AEW. Like, you know, maybe she'll do a couple matches in AEW. I can see that happening.
And I specifically hope that it's not the gateway to even a short-term thing with AEW. Just because, and say it kind of burnt with the whole Soraya thing, and how just bringing in someone who's got name value from WWE, just they need to pump the brakes on that a little bit at this point. But yeah, I could definitely see her doing things like maybe she gets called up for like a Bloodsport event coming up, or yeah, maybe just some one-off things. Essentially, it's one-off until the next one-off, and then it'll just keep going that way.
Well, I don't feel like there's really anything from Raw to talk about. I mean, if you guys disagree, feel free to bring it up, but kind of one of those events that didn't really seem like anything happened to me.
I'm trying to think. I do want to talk about this briefly. Why can't Seth Rollins even get the main event spot on Raw when the only other main match you're building for Crown Jewel is Cody Rhodes versus Damian Priest in a match that isn't for the Money in the Bank briefcase? Like, why can't Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre close the show out? Small thing, but it's one of those annoying things. Like, why are they actively drawing attention to Seth Rollins not being the top champion?
The WWE apologists are like, because that's supposed to drive him, because he's supposed to be like, no, I need more motivation to beat Roman Reigns and be the, you know, I got to do it. And it's like, no, it's because they know full well that this belt doesn't fucking matter.
Well, no, it's ridiculous because we know that's his motivation. We know he's actively wants a match with Roman Reigns. You elevate that match by elevating Seth Rollins.
Mm-hmm. Then again, if Roman's not going to be around, I guess they don't fucking care. You know. We'll talk about the Damian Priest, Cody Rhodes thing with the Crown Jewel predictions, but that's lame as shit. I like both of them, but yeah,
it doesn't have to be. Just it's so simple. You're active. That's another one. You're actively telling the story of, hey, Cody, you failed. It's like the third week in a row that they're really hammering at home that he didn't win at WrestleMania finally after 6 months. So, hey, let's put the Money in the Bank briefcase on the line. So if he wins, he finishes the story. That's it.
We'll talk about that next week.
Not that hard. I mean,
it isn't, but just because something's not that hard doesn't mean that people don't find ways to make it harder for themselves. Yeah, not much going on Raw. I don't think that much really happened on Dynamite either. There was one big thing that happened.
Yeah.
But like, to me, when you go like to Monday Night Raw and you're like, oh, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven defeated Natalya and Nikki Cross to retain their titles, and Nikki Cross didn't do anything. It's like, yeah, who cares? And then in the same regard, it's like, well, the Young Bucks and Hangman beat the Hardys and Isaiah Cassidy. Okay, like it's just retaining, and there's a quality difference of matches, but we're not a podcast of giving number ratings for things.
I mean, okay, but yeah, well, obviously we're gonna walk back to what's causing all this, but there's other stuff that happened on Dynamite, because like MJF forming a relationship with Samoa Joe, and MJF also, maybe Roderick Strong is trying to force a relationship with MJF. And now there's an 8-man tag next week, and it's like, who's he gonna find a team with him? There's stuff that happened on Dynamite.
Yeah, I mean, he's
a bit more episodic than even a show like Raw.
MJF retained that Dynamite Diamond ring, and that was something that I actually kind of thought that Juice Robinson might win that, but we don't know who he's going to team with. That's one of the big questions. Who do you guys think that's going to be?
John Spears and FTR.
I think in some sort of like weird combination thing, I think it's going to be Kenny Omega, Samoa Joe, and potentially even Wardlow.
No,
because they're the three people that are targeting MJF, and so MJF gives them basically, you have MJF beat Kenny Omega at Collision, and so Kenny Omega shows him some respect and decides that he's going to team with him at the show. Joe's like lent out a hand to MJF, saying that I'll be there to help you, but you've got to give me a rematch for the title, and so he takes up that offer. And then I don't know who the other choice would be, but like Wardlow's the other one that's gunning for MJF and the title right now. So you create some kind of Franken team out of those people that are all have a vested interest in trying to get a title opportunity or a match with MJF, and you turn that into and you make that the kind of like a strange bedfellows situation, because he's already said he's not going to team with like Roddy and the Kingdom, and he's not going to team with the Acclaimed, so he's now just got to take opportunities where he can get them. I don't see it being FTR and Sean Spears, because as far as I'm aware, like Dax isn't MJF's biggest, isn't really on good terms with MJF.
Didn't they kiss and make up with the whole after the match with Adam Cole thing, where he legitimately was like, I'm the Pinnacle was my fault because I didn't see how good you were. I'm sorry. And then they had tequila and they were all good.
Maybe, but
because I see it.
It's a bit out of the blue. It seemed quite out of the blue to bring the Pinnacle right back, or at least like even if it's a one night thing.
Because I saw it the way you saw it, where I'm like, okay, it should be people he can trust, and he formed the Pinnacle, so he'd rather go with that, go with the devil than the devil you don't, kind of thing. And I thought Wardlow would be a great option because he's like, I'll protect you again, Max, so that I can be the one to kill you. And then they immediately had Wardlow kind of promo about how he wants nothing to do with Max.
Right.
And later Samoa Joe was like, did the thing I thought Wardlow should do, which he said, I'll protect you. Which I could see Joe being on the team. I just don't know who else would join that squad.
The Omega thing and the Joe thing makes sense to me, but then the third person, that's where it's kind of, do they have somebody in mind? Like, it's AEW. Like, they pull people out of their ass all the time, and they could just be like, it's Katsuyori Shibata. You know what I mean? Like, they tend to do that stuff, so they might have somebody like a New Japan guy that they want to put in the spot or something.
MJF wouldn't team with a guy from New Japan. Like, his character thinks New Japan sucks, so
he's
an indie. So, the other option is whoever this guy in the mask is.
You guys thinking that that's Jack Perry? A lot of people are saying that.
I would rather die
Yeah. I hope they come up with something more interesting than that. But
I wouldn't go that far.
I mean, it's one of those things that like it's an interesting week on Twitter or X or whatever it is to see people both due to two things to happen, thinking that CM Punk is both returning to AEW and also going to WWE at the same time,
and also going to TNA.
Yeah, so
all three are happening, right?
Yeah, exactly.
TNA gets the C, AEW gets the M, and WWE gets the Punk.
Yeah, but yeah, they're doing a really cool thing with MJF. Is at the heart of everything right now. The match with Amaya coming up, he's defending the world title against Jay White Full Gear. He could have a match with Samoa Joe coming up. He's also got this 8-man tag, and then he's also defending the Ring of Honor tag titles against the Guns at Full Gear as well now. So yeah, there's a lot centering around MJF, and the whole first half an hour of Dynamite was basically centered around him and every single feud that he's got going on with pretty much half the roster at this point.
See, but I love that. It really feels like they're growing. His character is growing, and they're making up for the fact that he went from never wrestling and just repeating the same beats to like everybody wants to get their hands on this guy. He's got a Ring of Honor tag team title match against the Guns at Full Gear in a handicap match, for now at least. He's got Jay White. He's got Kenny Omega. I love this. Again, this is the kind of stuff that I enjoy from my professional wrestling. Everything is centered around the top guy and wanting to be the champion.
So let's talk about Ric Flair.
I mean, okay, so like Tony Schiavone, the gift for Sting turns out to be that Ric Flair has come out and he's going to be supporting Sting throughout his retirement tour. Yeah, I'm pretty frustrated with this.
You were the first person I thought of when I saw this, because I thought of when Adam Copeland was coming in and how you were talking about the frustration.
But it's not even... Adam Copeland's a different story, because it's more of a case of that's a guy who's going to be obviously prominently positioned, but it's just whether the money you're going to invest in him is worth the returns you're going to get. I don't want Ric Flair, but he is fundamentally, as far as I'm aware, especially more in the modern times, he seems like a good guy. Ric Flair's a piece of shit and shouldn't be in a wrestling promotion anymore. Like, it's a really like awful thing now to get to this point where I just want him to, not in the absolute worst case scenario, but I just want him to go away and never be around anymore. And I'm kind of super happy with that being the case, because like, why people still woo him and get like big cheers when, not at the same level, but like,
why does he get a pass?
Yeah, why does he get a pass for all the stuff that he's done in the past? Like, we're all aware of it. It's because, it's the Nature Boy and he's crazy and all that stuff. But no, he's a really like problematic individual. And the only reason he didn't come into AEW before is because that Dark Side of the Ring documentary came out and showed all that stuff. And then, it's one of those situations that I would associate with WWE of just like, just wait for that to blow over and then we'll bring you in. Like, no, don't bring... Why does Tony Khan take such a firm stance on, okay, Hulk Hogan can never come into this company, Hulk Hogan's bad, but Ric Flair's great, bring Ric Flair in. It's like, they're both awful individuals that you shouldn't be bringing into a wrestling promotion anymore.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I saw a post, I believe it was James Vanderbeek, not that one, on Twitter, that said, it's weird that Tony Khan just said all this stuff about Vince and then enter Ric Flair. Because, there's a lot of truth to that, where it's like, Flair's done a lot of really bad shit, and I understand why he's coming in for this story, but from the perspective that Callum was talking about, it is a bit of a black eye on the perspective that people usually take when it comes to AEW.
Yeah, I'd say fundamentally, Tony Khan is probably putting the, I guess the debt that he owes Sting for coming back and doing all the stuff that he's done for the company. He's putting that over the kind of like the
morals.
I'd say well, not so much. It is morals to a degree, but it's also the fact that the people that are going to be shouting about this and saying how wrong and hypocritical it is are just loud noises on X. And realistically, in the same way your common god and wrestling fan will bow Vince McMahon if he walks out into the stage, doesn't really give a crap about the fact that Ric Flair did all the things that he's done. So it's about, and that's in my opinion, I think a lot of other people's opinions, that's a wrong attitude to take, but fundamentally that's just the way things are. People, as long as you did something and people were a fan of it, they don't really care about the type of person you are, as long as you didn't actually kill someone or get convicted for something serious. So
even then, you get people that still are apologists for Chris Benoit. Like, people will go like, "Oh, isn't it time that he goes into the Hall of Fame?" It's like, fuckers, come on, that's not happening.
Yeah, no. So as long as there's no overarching negative backlash and there's not like massive dips in the ratings and people just turning off AEW or not buying their pay-per-views, then they're not going to really care in the long term. But I was kind of hoping it would be a bit of a different situation here, but clearly if it's to make Sting happy, then I guess that's fine.
I don't know Tony Khan. I want to put that out there, but like, I also think Tony Khan would like to book Ric Flair. Like, it could just be that simple that he's just like, yeah, let's have Ric Flair. And they didn't do an all elite graphic or anything, but they did say he'd be around until March. That's a good 6 months. Now, I just want to put this out there. It's the first thing I said. As soon as I saw him, I said, oh, fuck. Sting and Darby against Flair and Andrade when? And is that... You're laughing. I'm not laughing. That's probably what they're going to do. You think that Ric Flair and Sting will be in the same motion without Ric Flair turning on Sting? Then you're not familiar with Ric Flair and Sting.
I mean, that I laugh because I'm like, the first thing I thought was, oh, is it going to be Sting versus Ric Flair? Like, I
thought that I don't think it was going to be Sting versus Ric Flair. I thought that if there was going to be a match, I think it would be a trios match. The only thing that would happen is the Rick would come in, hit a few chops, and then go out, and it would be like a way of almost salvaging his previous last match, which was one of the worst matches of last year. And just saying, okay, he's technically in this match, but all he does is chop someone a couple of times, and that's it. What? And then the match is infinitely better because he wasn't really involved in it.
Who would the trios be, you think, that they would
Christian,
fight?
Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne, maybe.
Flair's got to be in there.
For you mean
final? Flair would be on the other side.
Flair would be with Sting and Darby.
Flair would be teaming with Sting and Darby, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that Ric Flair wrestles a dinosaur tickles me in some ways, but
he wouldn't be wrestling. He'd probably chop Christian and Nick Wayne a couple of times, and that's it. But
and bleed still.
I mean, we don't know that potentially happen either because isn't Darby injured? So you can't really.
Darby's wrestling in full gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we don't care about injuries.
Probably likes it better that way.
Darby's going to team with Sting in Sting's last match in March and then go climb Mount Everest in April and probably never get his shoulder fixed.
I think Flair's there pretty much certainly just to be in his corner. I don't think they'd be able to clear him to do a match even if he wanted.
Stranger things have happened.
Well, let's talk about strange things when it comes to Impact Wrestling going back to total nonstop action wrestling. They are going to rebrand as TNA once more. The brand that will not die. It has been, it was episode like 124 or something that I had put up a thing on Smack Talk about the impending doom death of TNA. 500 episodes later, we're back to TNA.
Well, this is objectively very good. Calling it Impact Wrestling was always stupid. I don't care what anyone says. I saw a lot of people saying, "Oh, why are they going back to TNA? This is so dumb. They tried so hard to get away from that." Nobody says TNA Wrestling and is actively like, "Hey, tits and ass." Nobody does that. Who does that in 2023? Yeah, the one guy, and like, fuck him. Like, this is a great move. Impact is always a stupid name, and no matter what anyone says, you can say LOL TNA all you want. TNA was at least associated with Kurt Angle, Joe, AJ, Sting, Jeff Hardy. Impact was associated with, oh, hey, they're on the Pursuit channel. Yeah, it's time for them to level up. I love everything about this. I think this is a phenomenal move. It goes back to being TNA Impact being the show, which is great because, again, I just have never liked the idea of name of show is name of company. And the thumbs up for me on this. And I'm probably going to be the most passionate on this panel about this because you two don't watch. And I'd rather watch something that's at least trying to be better than something that's like Impact Wrestling. We're still here. It's like, I'm so much more excited for this.
See, I look at it more as TNA Wrestling. We haven't gone away.
Well, listen, the first show is called Hard to Kill, and there's a reason for that.
I am on the complete opposite end as you are. I think that the TNA name has been terrible from the start. Not even for the whole tits and ass thing. I just think that even the initials suck, and the total nonstop action wrestling is like, that's such a mouthful. It should be TNAW in that regard too. And I don't associate TNA with any kind of really good stuff. I associate that with always being a failure of a brand that keeps coming back in different ways. And I'm starting to get the impression that maybe we get a rebranding of this every couple of years for some kind of tax purposes. Like, you guys know the whole situation of like, you ever run into like a restaurant that the owners change every like 3 years or so, and it's like it changes to a different member of the same family, and then it cycles back? I think that there might be like a tax thing for this where it's like, okay, well, now we're Global Force. Well, now we're Anthem presents Impact or whatever, and then now we're slapping a sticker on this and we're gonna be Impact, and then now we're TNA. And
too much credit.
I mean, this has felt like a money laundering thing for a long time.
No, I think this is good. Has anyone here ever stopped calling it TNA? Either of the three of us ever stopped saying TNA? Just instinctively. I think it's a better move. Like, I was always going to be in support of getting rid of the Impact name in general, just because I think that's just silly. I think the all cap Impact thing, the branding of this, I just enjoy better, and I think there's a good chance to make this a solid number 3. And we need that solid number 3, especially now that Ring of Honor may be quote unquote a separate promotion, but it's not. So let's get a TNA in there, and they can be your solid number 3 promotion.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a great move for the promotion. Yeah, the TNA name is the one that has the heritage to it, and whether people associate that negatively or it's a good thing, but it did have a very, very strong fan base for a good period of time. It wasn't until Hogan and Bischoff turned up and Dixie Carter couldn't keep her fucking emails away from saying that Vince Russo who definitely wasn't working for Impact actually was working for Impact, and that lost them their big TV deal with Spike and all the other places. But the end of TNA and the launch of Impact Wrestling in order to try and bury that away has now been replaced with everyone's thirst for nostalgia, and like nostalgia is vogue right now, and TNA is nostalgia. So I think that is definitely the right move at the right time for them, because they do feel like a promotion that is on the ascendancy again. They don't feel like that. This doesn't feel like 2010, 2011 TNA, or even like the stupid Global Force stuff, and Austin Aries getting pinned by John Morrison and then immediately walking out the ring. Those sort of like those constant issues and things that were always just chipping away at the credibility disappeared for quite a while. It's been a good like year, 2 years plus for the promotion of like making smart decisions, getting good people to work for them, actually keeping hold of them for a good amount of time as well, when we think that certain people were, okay, this is a stepping stone for them to go to WWE or to AEW. They're consistently keeping hold of a good core of people that don't seem very interested in moving on. And that's probably because they like the way they're treated there, or they like the atmosphere there, they like the camaraderie about it. This feels like the more of an origins of TNA, when it was just a lot of, well, I wouldn't say the absolute origins of TNA, because that was a mix of hungry young people just looking for opportunities, and then a bunch of absolute layabouts that were just there for the money. Although Bully Ray still works for Impact Wrestling, so I guess they still works will still be part of TNA probably, and Tommy Dreamer and that lot. So maybe they could pack it in eventually, but yeah, I think that this is definitely a step in the right direction for them, and a kind of like a marker being set that we are back and we're proud to be this promotion. Like, this is going to be TNA moving forward. So yeah, I'm in agreement with Rob. This is the right move at the right time.
Urge to merge. Urge. Never been a fan of TNA. I liked actually
we
when
talked
it was
about the NWA getting a TV deal. That feels like the right time to talk about that.
We talked about it last week, I think.
Did we? Good.
Or was that the week that I did it by myself?
Because you did it on your own.
I was gonna say I don't remember talking about it, but yeah, NWA getting a TV deal with CW. I think that's awesome as well. I'm always gonna be more of a fan of traditional outlets, just because I guess I'm old now. But it's better for wrestling. Maybe they get a budget increase and they can start doing better shows and hiring better performers. Big fan of all of the positive movements in the world of wrestling.
Well, one positive movement you should do is hit that like button.
Right.
And you should let us know what you have to say about these different topics. Drop a comment below. Tell us anything else you want to talk about. If we missed some kind of hot tag that you feel like we should chime in on. Of course, we could roll that into next week or so if that ends up being the case. And, who knows what other hot tags will end up popping up over the next few days or so. But we do have a dark cast coming up, so we're not done for this week quite yet. Of course, you can only get access to that if you are on the Patreon or you are on the channel membership side of YouTube. So click on that join button, get access to that. And make sure that you are also clicking around on all the other things that you can see. I mentioned Fanboys Anonymous. Go over there, check out what's happening on that website, and check out the link tree that I have over at amangotree.com. You'll find links to not only the Smark Moment and Fanboys Anonymous stuff, but also any other random things that I have on there, like the Letterboxd or my Facebook and Twitter. Sometimes I tweet stuff just out of the blue. Sometimes I tweet during the shows. It's not something that I'm the biggest fan of, but, every so often I'll hop on Twitter and do something. So follow me at Tony Mango there, and make sure you're also following what Rob and Callum are up to.
Yep, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice, and you can check out my work on Fightful and my work on WrestleZone and anything else I've got going on, you can check me out on all the social medias. Alan?
You can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out the Power Rankings every Saturday on smarkmo.com for my rankings of the WWE Superstars from their past week. And also, while you're there, or you can head to www.fantasyleague.com and check out the Fantasy League, see how all of our teams are performing and who's picking up points as we head towards the next stop on our journey, which is Crown Jewel.
Crown Jewel stuff will be coming up next week as well. You know, we got to get into our pay-per-view point stuff for that. Got an onslaught of pay-per-views heading it towards the end of the year here, as I mentioned before, but we got a blank week in between there, around the 8th of November. So we'll see what we end up getting in the main event for that. But go back and check out this week's main event of the Mount Rushmore of spooky / scary / crazy, psycho, whatever. We did a lot of Mount Rushmores in one thing, as per usual, for the most frightening things in pro wrestling. I guess you should kind of put it that way. And then, you know, we'll see you when we see you on the next thing. Adios for now. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.